Family is the most basic unit of our society, and when there is a disharmony in the family, it reflects on the society. Join us today on our discussion on family values.
इस्लाम कुछ भी हो जाएंगे हम जहाँ भी के जाना पड़े हमें जाएंगे हम जहाँ भी के जाना पड़े हमें.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Beacon of Truth, a live program from MTA International Studio, Canada. In this program, we discuss a variety of contemporary issues relevant to today's young Muslims. To help analyze these subjects, we get the views and expertise of some of our guests, as well as the general public. You too can get in touch with us with your comments and questions via Twitter and Instagram using hashtag BeaconMTA. We are also conducting an online poll today about the subject at hand. On social media, we asked you that do you think there is a lack of importance on family connections in this society? Inshallah, we will share the results later on in the program. Today, I am joined by my two colleagues, Farhan Iqbal Sahib and Hafiz Mujib Ahmed Sahib, both of whom are serving as imams and missionaries of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community here in Canada. Today, we are discussing family values. The structure and habits of families, they're changing around the world. The modern families behave quite differently now than compared to 20, 15, or even 10 years ago. And this may be due to the changes in the societal trends, perhaps how families are portrayed in the media and the film industry, or maybe the introduction of the modern technologies in our lives. Whatever the case may be, Islam as a way of life, it guides Muslims to foster the familial relationships, and it lays a great importance on keeping the ties of kinship. Islam as a deen, as a way of life, it teaches that a true believer never severs the ties of kinship. Rather, it strives to give due regard to the family values. So today's discussion will be touching on the values or the various aspects of family values as prescribed by Islam. So Farhan Iqbal Sahib, let's, before we get into the crux of the matter, if you could kind of highlight for us the modern society, the modern age, the concept of the family which is changing. So how do people in modern society view the family?
So, in the past we had the concept of a nuclear family. That was a traditional concept where you have the parents and the biological children. But as you just mentioned, a lot of people are now challenging that concept. They don't see that as the real definition of a family. So it's actually, in a way, it's hard to come up with a true definition that everybody would agree with. But there are different kinds of families nowadays. There's the blended family, for instance. Because we have an increasing divorce rate, we now have families where there are step siblings and step parents, because there are certain parents who might have children from a previous relationship and they're living in the same household. So you have that family dynamic. Then we have, in some cases, children are born into a family with a single parent. So that is what they see as a family, that there's a single father or a single mother with several children in the household. Then we have, in the Eastern cultures, we have the joint family system. We have the extended family living together, aunts, uncles, cousins, even in some cases grandparents living in the same house. And children growing up in that environment would see that as a definition or a true definition of a family. Then, in certain cases, we have certain people who might be distant from their blood relatives, and they might have some issue there. And so they would see their friends and acquaintances as family. So there's a broader definition of family in that case. And I think part of it is due to the fact that there's more individualism in the modern age. There's more emphasis on the individual, on uniqueness, on living in a more isolated way. And so that is also probably contributing to the changing definition of a family.
And with these changing times, we wanted to know if people are spending enough time with their families. So this is what we asked some people of the general public. Let's hear what some of the things they had to say.
And as students, we feel we have no time for anything but our schoolwork. And being completely 100% dedicated to the degree that we're in, especially for us two, I know we don't have much time to even sleep at night. So no, I feel like we don't get to spend as much time with our families as we would like.
We could be there physically, but like we're not there. Like everybody's on their phone or like just in a virtual world, and even at home, people will like go straight to the room or like play video games or whatever. And then conversation shoes like, "How was the day? Good, great," and then end it there.
Yes and no. It's a bit of a double-sided question because it depends on where I'm at, where the year's at. So, around the holidays and stuff, you're out of school, you're out of work, I want to spend as much time with them as I can, right? But, being a university student, a young adult, a young male adult, I find that they can definitely, their presence can sometimes be forced, and, sometimes that I need to get out of the house because I've been there too much, or, they're just getting on my nerves or whatever it is.
No, not really, because nowadays we only spend time with our family when the calendar says to. So if today's family day, we'll go spend time with our family. If it's Thanksgiving, we'll spend Thanksgiving with our family. But we don't ever say, you know what, today's Tuesday, I feel like seeing my family. Let's call everybody together and let's just sit down and have a conversation. It's not really like that anymore. We mostly follow on the calendar. We don't follow our own pace or schedule anymore.
So the last comment there, that we all follow our own schedule, and times have changed quite a bit. So Hafiz Saab, we've heard the concept of the family in these modern times. How is this concept different or perhaps similar to the Islamic concept of family?
So the students have mentioned that the norm has changed now. So families are not acting in the way as they used to traditionally. They don't spend as much time, and the focus is much more on being independent, on one's career. But Islam teaches us that we must focus on the family as a unit and establishing relationships not within just the family, but also with the far-off relatives. Allah Ta'ala has also mentioned over a dozen times in the Holy Quran that we must have good familial ties with our near family as well as Zawil Qurba, those far distant relatives. The fact of the matter is that a healthy family is the cornerstone of a healthy society. A lot of issues such as domestic violence and suicide are a byproduct of clashes within the family. Time magazine actually reported that in 2017 in the United States, $210 billion was spent annually in healthcare battling issues such as depression and anxiety. When we look at the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he told us how we can keep our family ties proper, how we can stay connected, and in this way, how we can establish a better family that can contribute better to society. The Holy Prophet ﷺ was never shy to help in the kitchen. He was never ashamed to do any kind of house chore. In fact, when Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu anha was asked about the conduct of the Holy Prophet ﷺ in relation to the house, she responded by saying, Kana yakunu fi mihnati ahlihi, that he would remain in the service of his family. And when it was time for prayers, he would go for prayers. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ also said that khairukum khairukum li ahlihi wa ana khairukum li ahli, that the best among you is the one who treats his family the best, and I treat my family the best, as proven by this testimony of Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu anha. And not just Hazrat Aisha, even the other wives of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they all are proof how he maintained and conducted all his various households in the perfect balance, and how he kept that unity amongst all of them. And when we look at the life of Hazur, may Allah be his helper, we find the same exact conduct as the Holy Prophet ﷺ. There was an article published by the respected wife of Hazur in Review of Religions, and those of the viewers who want to go check that article out, they can. It's a very useful article. It's entitled Hazur, an Exemplary Husband, and it's on the Review of Religions website. And in that article, she mentions how Hazur, before his Khilafat, when he was living in Ghana, he would not have, any kind of priorities of his own. He would never say that this is my schedule, this is how we need to do things today, this is the food that should be cooked today or on that day. He would always leave it up to his wife or the children. Every single day she mentions that after Fajr, no matter how busy Hazur was, he would himself go out and get large tanks of water for use in the house. He would never leave it to someone else or his wife. And even when she was sick, he would go as far as to take care of the matters of the kitchen. He would cook meals in the kitchen, you know. So these are the examples that we have of Hazur, may Allah be his helper, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ, how they kept the family as a unit and how they kept the relationships so strong and positive. And once we do that, then we can be better members of society as well.
And obviously this leads to having a much more harmonious society in the long run. As I mentioned in the beginning of the program, Beacon of Truth is a live program, and you can send us your comments and questions via Instagram and Twitter using hashtag BeaconMTA. A lot of people are responding to some of the questions that we asked on Twitter about family values. There's some very good pieces of advice, and the viewers should head over there to @Beacon_MTA, and they can benefit from them greatly. We'll share with you some of these comments that have been coming in. Amtul Aziz Sahiba, she writes in that families should at least eat dinner together and talk to the family members instead of using the cell phones during dinner, and do daily activities together. It could be an activity from the home chores or to outside walking and etc. Similarly, Sabah Bajwa Sahiba, she comments that I feel that in the Desi culture, some families don't hang out and talk about what their feelings are, and they should be doing this. And Kanita Tahir Sahiba writes that I think family is extremely influential and impactful on a child's mentality, the habits and upbringing, so it is crucial to make sure that the atmosphere and environment of a family always has love and understanding. She says that way they find comfort in their arms, meaning in the arms of their family. And Ramin Akbar Sahiba, she says that prayers are the one thing that keeps everyone together, and all the family members, especially parents, must have a strong bond with their child that would eventually make them comfortable to talk to their parents about anything, even if that's an odd matter. So here are just some of the things that people are sending in. In the modern age, we see that in a typical family, when the parents grow old, they spend their last days living at perhaps care homes and facilities for the elderly. Is this something which is even moral? Do the children have responsibility of caring for the elderly parents, or are these care facilities a viable option for them? What does Islam say about care for the elderly? Before we discuss some of these questions and more, let's take a look at what people in the general public had to say on this issue.
Well, you should always take care of your parents. You know, that's the #1 priority. Even if you don't like your mom or your dad, you should always take care of them out of love and out of respect, because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be here. Needless to say, if they never really cared about you, that you wouldn't have been around alive today. You'd have probably been somewhere else, and you would have never known your parents. So no matter how much love they treat you or how bad they treat you, always remember to respect your parents, you know, and love them, and also take care of them too.
Definitely, they should definitely take care of their parents for sure. Like, for example, my parents, they took care of their parents extremely well. They really care about them because, you know, their parents took care of them. So it's kind of like the kids, you know, doing the same favor.
It depends on what the parents want for themselves. Like if they want their children to spend that time taking care of them along with their own lives, or if they want their children to lead their own lives and not have to worry about them and say, hey, it's okay, just put me in a retirement home, just make sure you come visit me and let me have my grandkids now and then, you know? So I feel like it's a conversation for each individual family. There's no general consensus over that, I feel.
Yeah, all the things that our parents did for us without wanting anything in return. And I think that, like me as a daughter, I feel really grateful now, and I come to realize that I've done a lot of things that weren't as great, and I caused my parents a lot of trouble, so I want to pay them back any way that I can as I get older, kind of thing, yeah.
So, gentlemen, as we heard, a lot of the sentiments of the people, it's one of gratefulness and gratitude towards parents. And this is exactly what we're discussing here today. In fact, there's a hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ where he said that if one or both parent have attained old age and yet a person still does not attain paradise, in fact, it's a very unfortunate person. So in regards to Islam, what does Islam say about respecting and taking care of the elderly and about parents?
So it was very nice to hear them express this sentiment that, we have a lot to be grateful for when it comes to our parents. The Quran, the Ahadith, they're full of teachings about giving respect to parents. For instance, in the Quran, Allah says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا, that we have enjoined on man with emphasis to be kind to his parents. And there's so many ahadiths. You've already quoted one where the background is that at one point the Holy Prophet ﷺ kept saying, let him be humbled, let him be humbled, let him be humbled. And the companions became a little bit concerned, and they asked Huzur, who are you referring to? And the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that he who finds his parents, one or both of them, and does not enter paradise is the one who I'm referring to. And so he was saying that if you have parents and you find them in old age and you still don't serve them, then it's unfortunate that you have not entered paradise. And in a similar hadith, he says paradise lies under the feet of the mother. So again, that symbolism is used to explain that you should serve your mother, and if you're serving your mother, then you will enter paradise. And in another way, in another hadith, he tries to explain, or he explains through the reciprocity aspect of it. He says that a young person who gives respect to an elder person, Allah will appoint someone to respect him when he is older. So if you are respectful of the older people and you're caring of the older people, then Allah will ensure that someone is out there for you when you get old. So there are so many ways in which we are being taught that we should be respectful and caring of the elderly, and especially our parents.
Right, and Hafiz Saab, here in Canada, there's an aging population. In fact, in many of the Western societies, the population is aging very quickly. And in fact, the people who are there to take care of them are not able to, because there's just not enough support for them. And obviously, when people get older, they have other needs, special needs, and perhaps moving them into retirement homes becomes a feasible option. But how is that experience for most people?
Firstly, I must agree with you and affirm that there are a lot of people living in these elderly retirement homes. Currently, some reports suggest that there are 900 million people living in these facilities. And by the year 2050, there will be over 2 billion people that are in elderly retirement homes. It's not a black and white issue. There's no fatwa or prohibition that we can't have our parents living in these facilities. But I just want to share some information regarding elderly retirement homes. As we have probably seen in many news articles and reports, that there have been lots of issues concerning these facilities. So one very thorough study was published by the World Health Organization that was conducted over a 13-year period in 28 different countries. And they concluded that 64% of the residents living in those elderly retirement homes received some form of abuse. What kind of abuse? Financial abuse, psychological, physical, just generally neglect in care. Sometimes their clothes weren't changed for hours. Sometimes, actually, even their clothes weren't changed for days. They weren't allowed to use the washroom for a very lengthy period of time. Very inhumane things. And what happens is the near relatives or the family members, when they visited or when they meet their elder parents staying in these facilities, they naturally say, oh, they are getting older, so maybe they have some psychological issue, maybe they have some weakness in them, they're getting thinner, and they just see it a natural process of aging, whereas in fact, they have actually gone through some severe abuse. And the experts of this study, doctors, they concluded that 80 to 90% of the people that had received some kind of abuse, they did not reach the full potential of their lives. Their lives were actually shortened simply because of this abuse. So these are staggering numbers that we must take into consideration. According to the teaching of Islam as presented by Farhan Saab, we must keep in mind the great respect and the great way that we should treat our parents in the latter part of their life. And we must ensure that we make such accommodations with them that they live a comfortable and happy part of their life.
Jazakallah. Now, every interaction and relationship obviously is very different. How we behave with our parents, for example, is very different to how we behave with our siblings and our spouses. A very beautiful aspect of Islam is that it gives guidance with regards to keeping good relations with all of these, and breaking these relationships is seen as a great vice. Unfortunately, we see that as we grow older, we do grow apart as well. But is this what Islam wishes for us? How can we keep the bonds of family strong? And as we start new lives after marriage, what does Islam prescribe for spouses? These are just some of the things that we still need to discuss. But before getting into this, let's hear what some people told us about their understanding on family and extended family relationships.
When I was younger, I definitely spent more time with my cousins, and as we got older, they started, forming families and doing their own thing, and I've gone a separate way. So definitely in family gatherings, it's a lot of catch up, but it's not as close as it used to be. Like, you would share oh, let's go play outside or do something. So it's not like the strongest, but I wouldn't say that it's the weakest either.
I'm very lucky to be able to see pretty much any of my family, whether it's my dad's side or my mom's side, multiple times a year. Everyone's there. Everyone shows up for big events like Christmas and Thanksgiving, so I consider myself very lucky.
As we grow up, our relationships with our family members change and they mature, so we don't spend as much time with our extended family as we might, or at least that's been the case with me. And it might speak to my culture, but I feel that my relationship with my extended family is pretty good. I would like to see them more and get to know them more, because I feel that at the end of the day I probably have a really big family and I don't even know everybody's names, and that kind of does make me feel a little bit guilty. So I would like to get to know them better, but as far as the immediate first cousins, like my parents, brothers and sisters, I feel like those relationships are fairly strong, and I know I can count on those people whenever I need to.
Well, it goes both ways, because people's families are not everybody knows their whole family. You know what I'm saying? You may know all the people on your mom's side of the family, but not everybody on your dad's side. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's all based on the parents too. I prefer that, and I feel that everybody should know every part of their family. If you get what I'm saying, they should know that both their mom and dad's side. But it's not like that, because some families don't like each other. So you're the one stuck in the middle. If you really want to get to know them, you would have to take that opportunity to go out there and get to know them yourselves, right?
So to have a good relationship with our parents and with our children, obviously we need to have a good communication with them, and obviously that requires learning the language as well. So what are some of the things, for example, that parents can do to improve that relationship with their children?
So actually this is a very big question, and we have a short discussion on this right now. So it's hard to discuss all the points, but there are some things that in the hadith that we find in where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has guided us. For instance, at one occasion a person gave a gift to his son, and he brought the son to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he wanted him to see how he had given his son a present. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, "Did you give the same present to all your children?" And he said, "No." So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Would you want your children to treat you equally?" So it was a hidden way of giving a very good message that if you want your children to treat you equally and with respect, then you have to treat your children with equal respect as well. And it shouldn't be that any one of them is given preferential treatment. At another occasion, it was very clear. He said, "Qaribu bayna awladikum," have observed justice, equity among your children. At another occasion, he talked about respect. He said, "Akrimu awladakum," that respect your children. If you respect your children, then they will learn respect, and they will reciprocate and give you respect as well. And we have Hazur Anwar, may Allah be his helper, talk about this on several occasions. He has talked about how it is important to have a friendly relationship with your children. When it comes to your children, they shouldn't feel that they are distant, and it shouldn't be that we are always, in Urdu we say barob, that we have this awe-inspiring personality and we want our children to maybe be afraid or something. It shouldn't be like that. It should be a friendly relationship. The children should feel comfortable. They should open up to their parents, even grandparents. Hazur has talked about his own grandson, how he has this relationship where the grandson is comfortable talking to Hazur about his issues. And so every family should be like that. The children should feel comfortable to talk to their parents about the peer pressure or modern society and challenges that they have in this society. And at the same time, parents should, like you mentioned, they should know the language of their children. They should try to learn the language. We have a lot of parents who are immigrants who come over, and especially in Canada, English is the main language, or French is the language in Quebec and in some parts of Canada. So they should know the language. They should try to learn the language of their children. It shouldn't be that the children know a different language and parents have no idea what they're talking about. So these are a few points that parents can work on.
And Hafiz Saab, as Farhan Saab said, these are some things that parents can do, but obviously it has to be reciprocated from the other side, from the children. So what are some of the things the kids, the children themselves can do to have that better relationship with their parents?
So we observe that sometimes when children, they are in their early teens, when they reach the age of adolescence, they have clashes, they have some conflicts with their parents. And ironically, this is the age of understanding. This is the age when they can begin to understand some of the deeper concepts presented by Islam and the Holy Quran. We all know Allah Ta'ala is Rabb. He is Lord of all, Rabbil Alameen. He is the Lord of all the world. But Rabb actually means nourisher and sustainer. And if anyone else has been declared a Rabb by Allah Ta'ala, it is parents. We have been taught a prayer in chapter 17, verse 24, that Rabbir hamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. My Lord, have mercy on both of them as they nourished me when I was a small child. And Allah Ta'ala in the same verse has put parents second to him when he said, Allah ta'budu illa ijjahu wa bil walidaini ihsana, that you should worship Allah Ta'ala and be dutiful to your parents. And in another place in the Holy Quran, in chapter 31, verse 15, Allah Ta'ala has said, Anishkurli wali walidaik, that you should be thankful to me and your parents. So Allah Ta'ala has given great emphasis to parents. He has put them second to him in many places in the Holy Quran. And why should we be thankful to our parents? Well, when we see that Allah Ta'ala is a very different kind of Rabb, Allah Ta'ala has mentioned in the Holy Quran that Laysa kamislihi shay'un. There's no similitude with Allah Ta'ala. He's very unique. And when he wants something to be done, he simply says it to be done, and it happens. But for parents, they have to sustain us. They have to, work so hard. They have to make so many sacrifices in the upbringing of their children. It's not easy for them to be Rabbs or to be a Rabb. It's not easy for them, and they have to work very hard. And in this age, when children are in their teenage years, they can understand these concepts, and they can then begin to appreciate what Allah Ta'ala is telling them. In one of the verses of the Holy Quran, in chapter 46, verse 16, Allah Ta'ala has mentioned that the mother, she bears the child with a lot of pain and suffering, and this is the reason why you should be dutiful to her. You should, be thankful to her. So both parents, they make sacrifices in various scenarios. A lot of, to varying degrees, they make a lot of sacrifices. Sometimes they make financial sacrifices. In households we have seen parents, they allow the cooking schedule to be according to children. Sometimes they move cities or provinces, even countries, just for the education of their children. So when children realize all these things, when children ponder over these issues, they will naturally respect their parents. And in this age, they will realize that their parents have done so much for them. But even from a small age, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has instructed us that it is the right of a male child that his father should teach him the book of Allah Ta'ala, horseback riding, and swimming. These are just some of the extracurricular activities that the Holy Prophet ﷺ has mentioned. So in this time, parents should be spending, this hadith indicates that parents should be spending a lot of time with children, doing, lots of activities such as skiing, cycling, spending a lot of time with their children, and in this way they will be able to develop better relationships with them.
Jazakallah. Now we have one comment that has come in, and it's going to lead us to our next part of the discussion. This comes from Mubaraka Zia Sahiba. She comments that family time is really important. And she says that in this society, children must have strong bond and connection with parents and family members, sharing thoughts, doing chores, going on fun family picnics, and solving problems together is very important. So this is the second time that a lady has commented, and she's mentioned chores while talking about family values.
Right, so there's a lot of emphasis that men should be contributing to
and helping with the household. And so, Farhan Saab, this leads me to the question that what about the husband and wife relationship? How can that relationship be improved?
Well, on a serious note, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Hafiz Saab pointed out earlier, also did chores at home. So, you know, as
the model is there for
the model is there for us that he was the best in his relationship. As Hafiz Saab again quoted, "Khairukum khairukum li ahlihi wa ana khairukum li ahli." The Prophet ﷺ says that the best among you, and it's a very bold statement to say that the best among you is the one who is best in treatment of his family, and I am the best in treatment of my family. And so the Prophet is there as a role model. You know, of course, husband and wife is a relationship where there is disagreement. There is, you know, sometimes they don't see eye to eye on certain things. We have the Prophet ﷺ also in his relationship with his wives, where there were times when there would be disagreement, but there was never fighting or there was never heartfelt anger or something like that. They worked around those issues, and they would persevere, and they would be very patient. You know, at one point, the Prophet ﷺ said that even if you put a morsel of food in your wife's mouth, there's a reward for that. So indicating that even small things, small acts of goodness can go a long way in improving your relationship. The Quran says very clearly, "Ashiruhunna bil ma'ruf." Consort with them with kindness. You know, kindness is a very important aspect of this relationship. You know, during the time of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, there was an occasion when it was reported to him that one person has been very harsh with his wife. And the promised Messiah alayhi salam became very concerned. And he said, our brothers, members of our Jamaat, should not behave like this. And then he gave a long speech talking about the rights of the wife and how the husband should treat her very, very kindly. And then he gives his own example. And I quote, he says that my situation is such that once I raised my voice with my wife, and I felt that that raised voice had heartfelt pain, and I had not said anything particularly hurtful. But after that, so you see what happens after that. He said, after that, I kept on seeking forgiveness, doing istighfar for a long time. And I offered nawafil with humility. And I gave some sadaqah, as I believed that this strong tone with my wife may be the result of some hidden weakness. So even raising the voice, he was willing to go that distance to seek forgiveness and to offer nawafil, to give some sadaqah, because he was concerned that this is something that I did because of some weakness. So we can imagine how much the other, this is the promised Messiah al-Islam with a very high status in the eyes of Allah, how much other husbands and wives should be careful when it comes to treating their spouses kindly.
And you know, obviously, in this relationship, there are always ups and downs. But as the Holy Quran says, you should look for the goodness in the next person. In this way, focus on the good attributes, the good qualities, and this will make the harmony in the family. Now, Hafiz Saab, we've discussed the parent relationship, the child relationship, the spousal relationship. But in the family, one relationship which we are yet to discuss is the sibling one. So, what is something that siblings can do to improve that relationship?
So we see. Sometimes when children are smaller, they get jealous of one another. And you know, the responsibility here lies on the parents. And they have to ensure that, as there was a hadith quoted by Farhan Saab earlier, that the Holy Prophet ﷺ has instructed us, the children should all be treated equally. In Islam, there's no room for preferring a child based on gender or any quality or any reason, you know. They all have to be treated equally. Once that happens, then smaller children, they won't have any such issues. But we see even when children are growing up, when they become adults, sometimes when they are married, they have grudges, they have some issues. And sometimes, unfortunately, those issues last for months or even years. But the Holy Prophet ﷺ has guided us that a believer does not remain angry with another believer for more than 3 days. And we read in the Holy Quran in chapter 4, verse 129, that وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ, that reconciliation is best. So Islam is telling us, let go of the grudge, let go of the anger, You should be hasty in in severing ties. You should, actually developing, getting rid of that grudge, right? Reconciling with one another. If we look at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he created such a beautiful spiritual atmosphere. And those people the companions that had migrated from Mecca to Medina, he established a brotherhood between the two living in Medina and the ones that had migrated from Mecca. And I'll just present one brief incident. It is a very unique incident. Once a companion was selling a horse, and he kept saying to the other companion that was purchasing the horse that, it has some issues, it has some defects, so you have to pay me less money, you have to give me less dinars. And the companion that was purchasing it kept insisting that, no, I want to pay you more money. Have we ever witnessed such a unique business transaction? And this was only done because they only had this attitude, because as Hazur, may Allah be his helper, has been mentioning so many times, that you must give rights to others. This is what they were focused on. They weren't focused on themselves, they were thinking of others. And this is what we must do. And the examples that I have just given are spiritual examples, of brotherhood between spiritual brothers. So how important is it? It's just a food for thought. We can just assume how important it must be for literal brothers and sisters, or brothers and brothers, to develop strong relationships and let go of grudges so they can have good, strong connections with each other.
Jazakallah, gentlemen. I mentioned in the beginning of the program that you can send us your comments and your questions, and that today we are also conducting an online poll. And the results are in for that poll. We asked that, do you think there is a lack of importance on family connections in this society? 52% are saying that there is a lack of connection because they're too busy. Another 39% are saying there's a lack of connection because there's just no time. And 9% are saying that there is no lack of connection. So a good, 91% are saying because they're caught up, because they don't have enough time towards their families.
Yeah, so it's telling, but it is a good side to this that at least they acknowledge the fact that they are not spending as much time as and so 9 out of 10 people literally are feeling that. So when it comes to this thing, we have a lot of devices and calendars, and nowadays very easy to set up our time, to allocate our time for different things. And because of that, I think we always fill up our calendar with things that we want to do, and we forget about family. So we have to make time for that, just as we make time for so many other things.
Put the families in the calendar as well.
I read an article also about this, where they were talking about how we fill it up so much, our calendar, that even the free time is not there. There's no free time to do anything. So we have to put it in there. We have to, even if not every day, but every so often, there should be, every week, there should be some time that is allocated for family only, so that we can build that bond. And it comes back to the same, that time that is spent together, that helps the bond to build. Social media and other things would not help us build that connection, which we can build in person.
Right. A lot of people are sending in their comments and their questions. This one comment comes from Amtul Rafiq Saiba. She says that, I believe that some people, they cut ties with family because they are ashamed of an action that they have done and the reaction of the family. But we should know that after all, Allah Ta'ala, our families are the key people in our life, and they will always be there for us. This one question is from F. Farouk Sahiba. She asked that, what about people who end these relationships because they have become toxic? So how does our faith address that?
There are times when a relationship can become toxic. And so Islam acknowledges the fact that there are times when a relationship would not work. And especially we have the example in the husband-wife relationship. There is that time when it may not work out. And Islam allows divorce, right? Because the relationship is not working out, and divorce is allowed. But it's one of the worst things when it comes to the legal allowable things. It's considered as the worst. But it's an exceptional situation. So in an exceptional situation, we can have other relationships that have become toxic. So there are a number of things we can do. Hafiz Saab was talking about how there are times when we can just apologize and try to reconcile. There are times when that reconciliation can work. There are times when it's maybe better to create some distance in that relationship, but still maintain the relationship. There are times when you can put a pause on it. But again, we're talking about those exceptional situations where we need to do, it's a case-by-case scenario. But in the general sense, we should always strive to improve our bonds with our families.
And in the general circumstances, the hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ is also there that a Muslim should not be upset or angry with another Muslim brother for more than 3 days. I think this is very important.
Right.
Another comment, this is from Ghazala Abbasi Sahiba. She says that as Hazur Anwar Aidullah Ta'ala bin Asl Aziz, he has stated that a family should watch MTA together because it greatly benefits the home environment, and that's just one of many things that they can be done together. This question from Sabiha Ashraf Sahiba, she asked that what should be done when a child is given more preference to friends and outsiders and feels comfortable with them instead of their own family?
So first of all, there's no competition. Both of these relationships can exist, can coincide side by side. They can spend time with their friends and as well as with the parents. But the hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, which I mentioned earlier, that children should be spending time with their parents. If they have been doing extracurricular activities with their parents, with their father or parents, they have been learning since a small age. And they have already developed hobbies with their parents. They want to spend time with them, So this time shouldn't come where they don't want to spend time with their parents. But if this time does come, then obviously it's on the part of the parents to take initiative. They're going to have to put in extra effort. It's not going to be easy. They're going to have to obviously spend much more time as they haven't been developing that relationship as earlier they should have. So maybe just, ask the child something special. Ask him what kind of trip do you want to go to, or what's something cool. Where do you want to go? Something like that. Get out of your way. Do something extra favor for him or her, and make them attached with you. And again, have that friendliness that we have been talking about, that Hazur, may Allah be his helper, has also emphasized. You always have to have that connection and maintain it.
Jazakallah. And this one comment comes from Ali Shahan Sahib. He's tweeted a picture of Atfal from Edmonton, and they're watching this episode live, and he writes that all these kids just agreed that they think children should be taking care of their parents. So Jazakallah for sharing and tuning in with the Atfal. We have one question from Basma Ashraf Sahiba. She asked that what can you do if you have realized that you aren't spending time with your family, but everyone has a different busy schedule and isn't always at home? So we've touched on it in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, we talked about it, that you have to allocate that time. And even if you feel that you have grown distant from your close relatives, you can work on it. You can call them up. You can set up some time to meet with them, have dinner with them. Or, it's your family. You would know the circumstances where you can just go back and try to talk to them and build that bond and become a good listener at the end of the day, and help them out in any way that you can.
And we'll take one last comment. This is from Uzma Noreen Saiba. She says that to improve a spousal relationship, the couple should at first start by assessing the situation to see how the other partner is feeling. She says that by knowing how your partner is feeling and reacting accordingly is the way to a successful relationship, and in every relationship, compromises have to be made for any relationship. Jazakallah for tuning in. Jazakallah for sending us your questions. As we've learned today, the family is the most basic unit of our society, and the societal peace stems from the maintenance of this family unit. And naturally, the structure, the habits of families, they are changing around the world and will continue to change. But what remains a constant reminder for us Muslims are the eternal teachings of Islam. We've learned about how much emphasis is given to ties of kinship. We've learned that instead of demanding our own rights, our worry should be about giving the due rights to others. Each one of us is responsible in maintaining these very vital relationships. As we move on in life, the things change, the times change, the people change. But this should not compel us to break our ties of relationships. Islam desires for us to have harmony and balance in our lives, all the while keeping strong relationship with our families, keeping together in times of happiness as well as in times of sorrow. Jazakallah Farhan Saab, Jazakallah Hafiz Saab for joining our discussion today. Very insightful discussion. Thank you for tuning in and joining our discussion. Please do send us your feedback and comments at our Twitter handle, which is @beacon_MTA, or you can email us at beacon@mta.tv. Join us again, same time next week at 1900 GMT on Beacon of Truth. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.
सदाक़ते इस्लाम कुछ भी हो जाएंगे हम जहाँ भी के जाना पड़े हमें जाएंगे हम जहाँ भी के जाना पड़े हमें